Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you all today. Casey, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity and for allowing me to share my story with everyone. Now, some of you may already know me. I'm an advisor for Intergenerations, and this is actually my 5th year with the program. I have a fabulous partner, Mr. Eric White. I also work at Casa Fleming for the Alumni and Development Department, and I work with Yvonne. So in fact, when you all graduate from TASIS, you will definitely be hearing from us because we are in charge of making sure that the alumni community is alive and well and thriving. So you'll get plenty of alumni updates from us, ranging from alumni reunions to the latest campus developments, campus enhancements. And of course, you will be encouraged to send us your news as well, because we love to hear from our alums after TASIS, basically. So, I've been at TASIS for about 12 years now, and yet I'm not really quite sure that many people here know my story, my journey, and in fact, how I came to TASIS. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm American. My parents are South American. My mom is Colombian, and my dad is Peruvian. I grew up in Queens, New York, in a little neighborhood called Flushing, which is not much unlike Chinatown in that it has a very active and thriving Asian community and delicious Chinese food literally on every corner. So it's great. I definitely get spoiled. I was very much spoiled growing up. I went to Long Island University, CW Post, where I studied broadcasting and communications. So my courses consisted of radio and TV production, TV management, public relations, and even script writing. It was an hour commute every day, and I absolutely loved it. Now, even though my world was quite diverse, it was teeming with diversity, there was always this part of me that wanted more. There was this part of me that wanted to see the world outside of this fast-paced, bustling city. And so I came to Switzerland to see what the other world was like. So I came here as a study abroad student at Franklin University. Back then, it was actually still Franklin College. My first few months here were they were glorious. They were filled with days of adventure, new friendships, and of course, the exciting dorm life that I'm sure many of you can relate to. So there was a lot of traveling, lots of weekends away, and long, drawn-out conversations with friends. One weekend, my friends and I decided to take a very long weekend to Amsterdam via train. We had heard all about the nightlife, the active city life, and the museums, the Heineken Museum, the Anne Frank House, and we obviously wanted to experience it for ourselves. Unfortunately, I never made it to Amsterdam that day. When we were at the train station, I remember I stepped away from the platform for a few minutes, and I went to Bilheteria, the ticket booth, because the train had been running late. By the time I got to Bilheteria, they said, well, actually the train is here. You better go get it. So I ran. And as I got to the platform, the train was actually departing. As an instinct, I decided to run to the train and tried to jump on it. So I held on to the bar and I tried to take a step, and unfortunately I slipped and I lost my grip and I fell. And I fell under the moving train as it was departing. And needless to say, that was pretty much a huge game changer in my life. As a result, as I said, I lost my left arm and my left leg. Days later, I woke up and I realized that in a matter of seconds, my life had changed. I went from being this very naive and curious 21-year-old to now being a 21-year-old who had some serious decisions to make and some pretty hardcore challenges that lay ahead of her. So again, needless to say, this was huge. What followed, obviously, were months of rehabilitation, doctors, medication, sadness, depression, but also periods of adjustment and acceptance. See, I was like a child again. I was learning how to walk again with a cane. I was learning how to use a wheelchair. I was learning how to use prosthetics. I got a prosthetic arm and a prosthetic leg, which I struggled with quite a bit in the beginning, but eventually I got there. I had to learn how to dress myself, to shower, go to the bathroom, cook, clean. Basically, all the things that we took and we take for granted every day, they became first times for me. So it was definitely an adjustment period for me. But again, slowly, I got there. Now, over those years, I went through many emotions. Happiness, sadness, frustration, anger, bitterness. But there were even moments of pride and joy and accomplishments. I don't know if you guys know the movie Castaway, when Tom Hanks is so desperately trying to start that fire, and he's finally able to, and he shouts and screams with joy, and he feels invincible, he feels like a god. I had moments like that, only with maybe more basic things, like being able to tie my own shoelace, or being able to do my own hair with one hand. So there were definitely moments of triumph there for me. But I would say the most prevalent emotion at that time was fear. I was terrified. I was terrified of what I looked like, of what people thought of me, of how I fit in, if I fit in, if I belonged in this world with this disability. You see, up until then, I had it all figured out in my mind. I had this mental blueprint of what I wanted my life to be. I would become a producer in New York City. I would have this fabulous job. I would eventually meet a guy, maybe have kids, have a nice, cozy, loving home. And after the accident, all of that suddenly seemed farther and farther away. To me, being happy meant fitting in, being a part of the norm. And of course, that wasn't the case anymore. So all of those fears of who I could be, they completely consumed me. So much so that I didn't leave my house for about 6 or 7 months. My life was this cycle of monotony. Eat, sleep, watch TV. Eat, sleep, watch TV. Eventually, this life of solitude, well, it began to take a toll. Because I realized that the only person I was punishing, the only person that was suffering, was myself. All my friends were moving on, and they were graduating, and they were meeting potential spouses, starting their careers, and here I was, feeling sorry for myself. At one point, I asked myself the questions, is this who you want to be? Is this the voice that you want to have? I'm sure many of you can guess what the answer was. No. So I finished my studies with Franklin University, and I got my degree, and I applied for a job at TASIS shortly after, and after 2 interviews, I got the job. And 12 years later, I'm still here. So slowly, I began to create a world for myself. One where, you know what, I could fit in. With the help, with the support of a wonderful team of friends and coworkers, I made a life for myself here. And Switzerland is not the most accessible of places. It can be really challenging sometimes. But I think for the most part, we make it work. So I began to travel and take courses, visit museums. I would take on anything that inspired me, that instilled a sense of creativity and passion. Because what I learned is that the only way you can confront a fear, the only way you can get over it, is by actually facing it head on. More and more I discovered that I had become more comfortable with the voice that I had. And blending in suddenly, it didn't seem so appealing. It actually seemed kind of boring. I think sometimes we get so caught up in fitting in, and we get so caught up in appeasing the masses, that we forget how truly unique we all are. We forget how unique our voice already is. I think sometimes we get so consumed by our fears of being judged and scrutinized that we forfeit our inner potential as a consequence. See, I thought being different was a bad thing because it meant that I would always be under the microscope, that I would always be looked at, that the whispers and people staring at me and pointing at me, that somehow that was a reflection of who I was, of my disability. And that's clearly not the case. So shaking off that emotional chain that weighed me down, it was incredibly, incredibly liberating. I had courage by my side, and with it, it allowed me to venture out into the real world. And now, not only do I have a voice, I have a story. And it's a story that I want to share with others now. So I've embarked on this personal, I guess you can say a personal mission of mine, to create awareness for the disabled community. I've given talks and various presentations in Lugano, and I've actually started to blog and document all of my stories, all of my adventures, all of the crazy people and things that I come upon, and the things that have left a lasting impression in my life. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for courage and the role that I allowed it to play in my life. The outcome to owning your courage is always going to be a gain. The outcome to giving in to a fear will always be continuous loss. I can't stress that enough. The outcome to fear will always be continuous loss. And the more you give in to that fear, the more you will be consumed by it. Now, over these 16 years, my life has taken me to places where fear has constantly been at my doorstep. It's been kind of like a constant companion in a way. But so has courage. It's always been there to show me the way. Just recently, actually, I was faced with yet another very, very personal fear. I went to Calabria for a beach holiday with a lovely friend, and this was a bit of an emotional hurdle for me, and this was one that I really didn't want to do, but I knew I had to. You see, this would be the first time that I would take off my prosthetic arm and my prosthetic leg off in public. The first time I would be in a bathing suit. The first time I would be exposed and vulnerable for the whole world to see. Needless to say, this was again terrifying. You see, over the years, my prosthetics have been kind of like my armor, my shield that protected me from, again, the pointing and the staring and the whispers, and now I had nothing to hide behind, nothing to protect me from all of that. So again, all those fears, they came flooding back. What will people think? What will people say? How will I feel? Can I fit in? Do I fit in? So I sat there, drowning in self-pity. Again. At one point, I remember I was playing with the sand, creating little mounds with the sand, and picking up some random seashells. And at one point, I found a mosaic tile buried within the depths. And I looked at it and I thought, well, this doesn't really belong here. It was this maroon-colored mosaic tile with a little bit of beige wrapped around it. And I thought, this isn't natural, it doesn't really belong here. And yet, here it is, staking its claim to the shore. And I thought, this is kind of like me, isn't it? I don't necessarily quite fit in, I am kind of different, but I'm still here, and I still have a voice. So it was then very reluctantly that I decided to take off my prosthetic arm, and then I took off my prosthetic leg. I took off my tunic, and I sat there in my bathing suit. Completely me, completely myself. And I realized that now I had nothing really to protect myself from because I was me. I had embraced my fear. I had been courageous. That trip was a huge game changer for me in so many ways. I will definitely be going back to Calabria. I will definitely be doing it all over again. Now, why did I tell that story? You see, our fears, whether big or small, are our own. Whether it be taking off a prosthetic on the beach, whether it be standing up to a classmate who you believe is doing something wrong, whether it be embracing a disability, these fears are legitimate, and they are our own. But you know what? These fears don't define us. How we react, ultimately, that's what defines us. What you do with that fear. You see, courage for me is like a muscle, and it's only strengthened when you actually use it, when you test it, and practice and exercise it. When many of you leave TASIS, when you graduate and you move on to bigger and brighter things, you will have moments of fear. You will have moments that shock you, that bring you completely outside of your comfort zone. And I'm here to tell you that those moments will make you better versions of yourselves. Those moments will give you the voice and the story that you already have. And I know this because they did for me. So I guess my message to you guys today is, don't be afraid to be afraid. Embrace your fears, acknowledge them, identify them, play with them, and then let them go. And let your inner courage, let your inner voice lead the way. Because I promise you that only good things will come from that. Again, they did for me. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you guys for listening. Second floor. If you ever want to stop for a chat, for coffee or tea or cookies, we have plenty of cookies at Casa Fleming. So you're welcome to come stop by and have a chat. That's it.
All right, how about one more round of applause for Miss E? Thank you so much for that wonderful story and the message that comes along with it. Really, I haven't heard these students so captivated in this auditorium like that ever before. Thank you guys for your time and your attendance and attention, and have a good day.